Joining once again. And in these sessions, we tend to talk about skills, soft skills, what we can learn. As the year is coming to an end, new year, new resolutions, people like to learn new skills and new things. So today I've invited a facilitator to tell us more about UX, UI design. And we hope to have a great session. It's just going to be a conversation style. If you have questions at the end of the sessions, we'll bring you on board through the chat session or on the WhatsApp group. You can drop your question, and we hope that our facilitator, Bolu, will help us answer all our questions within 1 hour. Yes, UI, UX. So someone told me that there's an order in which it has to be pronounced. In the post, I made a mistake. The later on, I realized that it's supposed to be UI, UX. So maybe that's one of the things that Bolu will help us to understand if it really makes any sense where it's positioned or not. So tonight we're going to be learning about UI UX, how to get into UI UX and whatever it is, and how much is being made in the industry, what we can do. Myself, I do a little bit of front end design, and one of the running jokes in the front end community is that when the designer does something, they'll ask him, are you the one who's going to code this thing you are designing like this? So today we're going to find out what the UI UX guys always do, that make the coders or the developers angry with them and ask them if they can code what they are designing. So without saying much, I'm going to ask my guest to introduce himself and what he does, and we'll continue the conversation over there. So Bolu, once again, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are doing all right.
Yeah, they're doing good. They don't like talking too much. Yeah. All right. So, Bolu, where do you work? What do you do? Let's give us your origin story and how you got into UX
all
UI.
right,
Yeah.
all right. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Bolu. I'm a UI UX designer. I've been in the industry for about 3 years now. Currently, I work for Orange Peel Limited, the company based in Netherlands. Um, And basically, Orange Peel is the major contributor to the Merit Circle DAO. So if you are a crypto enthusiast or you have an idea of crypto or you're deep into it, then you probably have come across the Merit Circle token. So Orange Peel Limited is actually the major contributor to the Merit Circle DAO. And in the company I work as a UI UX design, it's actually we're actually a team of two. It's not really a big company, it's a startup. But yeah, we are doing all right. So a little backstory of how I came into the industry, right? I graduated from Covenant University in 2018. Um while in school, obviously I'm a final year, and that's when everybody really starts thinking like, what exactly am I going to do once I leave school? So I also had the idea. I mean, I wanted to do music. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a songwriter too. I'm an artist. I write songs. I make music. But music is not going to fund itself, right? And aside from even if I didn't have the talent to do music, somewhere deep down within me, I wanted to be involved in the tech industry. I wanted to be involved because I saw what was being built, and it really was amazing. I mean, it's a different feeling when you build something from scratch and then people use it and solves their problems. Basically, you create solutions for people. There's a certain level of fulfillment that you get from it. So after graduating, obviously, I went for NYSC. I mean, I'm Nigerian. Um, I went for NYSC. During my NYSC, I was posted to a particular company, and I was working as an IT support person. I hated the job. I'm not going to lie to you. And after like 4 to 5 months, I sent them an email and I told them I could not do this anymore. And I just, I just went home. They reported me, but somehow we came to a resolution. But during the period from when I resigned to the point that I actually um, finished NYSC, I used that particular period of time to learn about UI UX design. And I'm not going to lie to you, it was not easy. It was about, let's say, about 6 months first, just for me to basically understand like the foundational principles. And what I did was, for at least, let's say, 15 hours every day, I dedicated and devoted time towards learning how to be a proper UI UX designer. And I think after like 6 months, the next year in February, I got my first internship at Post Labs. It's a design agency in Lagos, Nigeria. And from there, I sort of like built confidence, I would say, as a UI UX designer. And after spending a year and 6 months at Post Labs, I left and I got a job at a fintech in Miami, Florida. The name is Allocations. I worked there for about 7 months and I left, and currently I work at Orange Bill or Merit Circle. So yeah, that's really been my journey so far. It's been a very crazy journey, but it's one that I've really enjoyed. So yeah.
All right, very interesting. We most of us here know a lot about Merit Circle, because in case you don't know, I if you check my LinkedIn profile, probably you've done already. I was with Merit Circle as a community manager for Africa when it just started off. Part of the first people that started off with Merit Circle in the gaming. So I'm into blockchain gaming as well. I'm into a lot of things anyway. And as I said, anything that there's legit money, you will find me there. As long as tremendous journey that you've had. I'm from an engineering background. I studied telecom engineering at university. But right now, I really can't tell you that this is what I do. So I do a lot of things, but yeah, they're all legit. And I'm also trying to help other people to not go into the long learning curve that I went through, and to be able to. So I have a STEM education startup. So this is what we focus on doing for like 5-6 years now. We've been doing that. So right now I'm trying to see how best to reinvent myself and reach more people, maybe through live sessions like this, and yes, speaking gigs and whatever, so that to help many young people. So what did you study at Covenant University?
I studied information and communication engineering. It's sort of like a bridge between electrical and electronics engineering and telecoms engineering. So it's sort of like if they both get married and have a child. So yeah, that's just basically the summary.
Okay, so you also have an engineering background. Would you say?
Yeah, I have an engineering background.
Okay, so would you say in any way that helped you in your UX UI journey so far? Did you do engineering drawing? I did engineering drawing.
So I did engineering drawings, but I wouldn't say that's actually what helped me, right? But I'm not going to be biased and say, I have some sort of level of influence, especially in understanding how to piece different parts of a puzzle together and then seeing how everything's supposed to work, like from a macro level, and then breaking it down to like micro levels. So if you're an engineer, you have to think like that, not me. And I think everybody in some way or form has to apply some sort of engineering approach to anything they do, especially in tech. So even if you're a designer, in some ways, you are still an engineer, right? Because you are trying to find solutions to a particular problem, right? So even the word engineering is sort of like a verb where you're trying to manipulate situations to find a solution. So I think I'll definitely say in some ways, yes.
So what about if someone has background in graphic design? Does that give them an edge in becoming a UX UI designer?
I'm not going to lie. If you have a graphics design background, you actually have an edge. You have an edge over like every other person, to be honest. If you come from graphics design background, I feel like it will even be easier for you than for other people. So for someone like me, I think it was easier, not because I have a graphics design background, but because I sort of have like a creative background, right? Right from when I was small, I was always like dabbling in like creative stuff. I used to draw, and like that sort of helped me in some ways. It kind of made everything easier for me. So I know that I've come across a lot of people who have reached out to me to tell me, oh, Bolu, I want to learn design, this, that, this, that. And then, I'm sending them resources and all. But like after some months, they gas out and they don't. But for someone like me, it was different. So because I was very, very determined in a way, but I'll also say that the fact that I come from some sort of creative background sort of made the learning curve easier for me. It's not everybody that can design, like it's not everybody that can draw, it's not everybody that can paint, but I knew how to do some of those things, even though I didn't pursue like a graphic design career in the beginning. But the thing now is with UI UX design, you can learn the UX part, but then when you get to the UI part, it can be very, very tricky because it's something that you have to dedicate like a lot of time to perfecting. Like it's practice. It's more about practice basically. And if you are not getting the results that you want in the beginning, it's very easy for you to feel discouraged. And then you just sort of like drop it and leave and try to find some other alternative or some other parts in tech that you fit in get. So
awesome. You know what I find something very interesting is that in our modern times, it's mostly like you can go to school and learn something, and you realize that what you are actually getting money from or what's putting food on the table can be a little bit slightly off totally from what you went to school to learn. So, but as you said, it takes a lot of time, determination. You send content to people, they don't follow it up. I mean, you also mentioned that like music is your end goal. Although you played out your background looks like a studio to me. It looks like some musician studio. So this is what I always tell people who want to do music, especially a lot of young people, is that don't get carried away by the top musicians. The top musicians make music look easy and fanciful. They flash money around. They drive a lot of fancy cars. So you might think that the music industry might probably is what was giving them money. Some of them maybe they come from money already. But how are you going to survive? Like, how are you going to survive? How are you going to survive, eat, put food on the table as you are building your career or building something? Of course, you can always do music on the side. If you blow, you blow. I have a friend when we in university has been doing music. Up to now, he has not gone mainstream yet. I've not seen like a mainstream act. So it's been like almost 6, 7 years after school, and he's still not mainstream. So, but his work as an engineer, he's working with one of the huge telcos, but he's still doing his music on the side. So you can imagine. So you can imagine how it is. So it's not like to follow passion is nice, but you also have to have the skills to sustain yourself. And how many hours do you say you dedicated to learning every day in that 6 month period? I didn't get
man,
that part.
to be honest, I would say like 15, about 15 hours because most times I used to work through the nights and then I sleep, wake up, eat eat breakfast, and then I'm back to it again. Unless I have like this where I have like light issues or something, and that might maybe like disrupt my process. But
Did you say 15
I'll,
hours,
I'll
1 5?
yeah,
1 5 a day. Wow. Wow, that's intensive.
yeah, it was
So you were
actually
you were
intense.
home
I
this
actually,
period just learning a new
yeah,
skill, 15 hours every day, like you took it like a personal thing. You had a goal to
yeah,
achieve. Wow.
yeah. So the thing is during that time. So normally NYS is like a year,
Yeah.
right? You go for a camp and then you get they sort of fix you into companies, right? So in that company, I only spent like 4 months. So after the 4 months, I still had like 5 months left. I think it was now 9. So I had like 5 months left or so. And within those 5 months, I was trying to get NYC to fix another place for me. But it was hard because most companies were rejecting me just based off of like time period. So I actually had some sort of opportunity to just be at home and just be collecting free government money. So I actually used that time to stay at home and learn. And it was actually very intense. I had a lot of back issues, which I still have until today. So please, if you work in tech, make sure you walk. like you take brisk walks from time to time. But I had a lot of back issues because of it. So, but I was actually quite. It was more or less like the tunnel vision kind of thing for me. I didn't see any other thing besides if I was behind me or anything. It was just tunnel vision, of like from beginning to the end. So yeah, I would say like 15 hours a day.
All right, that's awesome. So we are saying that if you are a young person doing your service right now, is the right time, that 1 year period, use it to acquire a skill. I mean, it's possible. This is still a learning curve. As we've seen, it's not what you learned in the university that might really help you. Maybe a new skill. You might have to test a number of, right now we are testing to see if UX, UI UX is the right skill that might work for you. So don't be discouraged. And for some of you, it might not be like in web development, we say an hour of code. So if you can put in an hour, sometimes it might never be enough. So you realize that even the hour is coming up, you still maybe like you're working on something, you're not achieving it, so you want to try and finish it. So but if you don't have the strength like Bolu to go for 15 hours straight up, please and take care of yourself, okay? Please watch your back. Some of us we are home sitting down all day, so it faced hurdles. It said he had light issues sometimes, network or whatever, sometimes as well. So, but if you're still in school, you can try maybe 1 or 2 hours dedicated time a day learning a new craft. Because once again, in our generation, we're not going to school to use what we learned in school to make money. There's so many ways to achieve an end. All right, awesome. So what was the creative process like? How did you learn it? Like, did you download videos or Coursera? You learned online. Maybe that in that instance you're going to have internet issues. So, but how did you really the nitty gritty about it? Can you tell us about that, like the main process? And the laptop you use, do you need a high-end laptop, like a lot of graphics power packed into it, i7 and all these kind of things? Yeah.
Yeah. So when I started, the laptop I was using, I is basically the laptop I started using when I was in like Covenant. It was a Core i5, but at that point I'd been using it for like let's say 5 years or 4 years.
Wow.
Let me say 4 years. Yeah, I was using it for 4 years prior to that time, and it didn't really have any special like features. It actually didn't have any special features. And if I try using that laptop today, I'll probably be frustrated as like I'll be very, very frustrated, right? But the interesting thing is most of the things I did that time was basically to like watch a lot of YouTube videos. I consumed data a lot. Like most of my money went into buying data and watching YouTube basically. So I didn't use Coursera. I didn't go to a boot camp. I didn't do any. I basically learned by myself. And I think that's why it kind of helped me with understanding how to do a little bit of research because I had to find out stuff by myself. I didn't have any curriculum, any Notion documents created by any UI UX designer that will help me know, oh, this is what I'll do first, this is what I'll do second. I just basically learned like on the go, and I just basically winged it. I was just learning as time went on. I was just learning more stuff, more and more stuff. As I was learning one thing, I was learning another thing. I was learning how that thing connected to the last thing I learned. And I was watching YouTube, reading a lot of Medium documents, Medium write-ups, a lot of documentation. Just basically anywhere I could find information, I was there. Now just everywhere I could find information, I was there. And I remember the first day that I learned about UI UX design, because it was actually before NYSC, right? I worked a temp job at one of someone working a temp job with me. We're colleagues in school. I saw that he had a lot of videos on UI UX design. I didn't know what exactly it was, but there was this lady in the company that I had my eyes on for a while. Then I noticed that she had one particular department. There was one particular department she was always coming out from her entry, right? And I asked, like, what exactly do you people do here? And that's when I found out about UI UX design. And I remember the videos that my guy had. So I actually collected those videos. I found the flash, collected the videos, and that same day I made like my first design within like a couple of hours, right? It wasn't the best, but it was still something. I was interested in it. So that was basically how we started, collecting videos from people, YouTube, Medium documents, surfing the internet, just trying to get as much information as possible. Then when it comes to the system thing, you actually don't need an amazing system. All you need is Figma and YouTube. That's all. You just need to, as long as the system can play video.
Figma is web-based, right? Or do you have to download it?
Yes. Yes, web-based. You can download the app, but that's basically if you want. It's typically web-based. You just need Figma, you need YouTube, and you need internet access. That's all. That's like the minimum requirements, to be honest. And I feel like as long as you have those things, you definitely be able to learn.
All right, guys, I hope you heard that. All you need is a web browser, go to Figma, YouTube videos. I believe by now there should be curated curriculum. I believe maybe we'll talk more about that off air. You can maybe show me like help us with it. So usually it's where to start from. That's usually the challenge. So I believe it's your expertise and support to be able to get where to start, which course to start from. That's curriculum, like a curriculum curated content. We'll work on that. And so on, in a lot of data. Yeah, for the data bits, I mean, when I was learning, I think my web development, I used to download, I used to go to a certain office or somewhere. I used to look for someone who has internet access, and I go there and I know what I want to download. So I download all the videos I want and I leave. So you just
I did that a lot too.
Yeah, so you just have to be wise and use your time very well than rather watching unnecessary videos or things that will not really help you. So I mean, it's dedication and planning. So you have to know what you are doing and where you are heading towards. So Figma is a platform that you can use on the web. You can also install it on your device. And but is there by any means you can? I know a lot of us here use mobile phones. Some of us don't have laptop. Is there by chance that there's a mobile interface that we can? I mean, for some of us that are still in trenches, I mean, if you can start with mobile.
You actually can't. I'm sure that there is, but it will be very, very limited. It will be very, very limited. But what our advice is, maybe if you do not have a system, you can start learning with like your mobile phone. Then all you really need is like a dedicated book and your pen. And then instead of even trying to learn the UI side, try focusing on the UX part, right? So you focus more on the UX part, basically like customer journeys, competitive analysis, user research, and all those things. Basically trying to have like an understanding of how exactly you can arrive at solving a user's problems through those different methodologies, right? You then after you try to understand that, then you can now, when you now maybe have a bit of money to get a system, you can now focus on the UI part. So I advise to instead start on the UX side.
Oh, great. So so he's saying that we should start with
please okay. Concerning the Figma. Okay.
Matthew, let's leave our questions towards the end. We'll have a session for questions, please. You can type it down or something so you don't forget, please. Type it down. Matthew, type your question down. So you're asking us that if we don't have a laptop for now, we can start with a UX. So UX stands for user experience, from what I've learned, user experience. So can you tell us more about user experience? What is user experience and why is it something that we can start off with it first if we don't have a laptop or can start on with mobile?
So basically user experience is understanding sort of like how users, basically people, interact with different products or with your products. So basically with user experience, you are trying to arrive at a point where these people have a great experience using your products. They do not have a lot of problems using your product, right? Because I'm sure that every single one of us, we've used different products, and there will be some products that you will not like in some way. Maybe you had a problem pressing it when you were trying to click a button and it was not just working, or you could not even see the button, or you could not see text, or it was not visible enough, sort of like accessibility issues. Maybe you have like short-sightedness, or you have like maybe some sort of visual impairment, and then you cannot arrive at a particular point you want to arrive while using that particular app. The job of a UX designer is to make sure that those problems are sort of minimized. Do you get? So basically, I'm trying to arrive at some sort of efficiency for the people using your products. So that's really what UX is about. And within the UX, there are different methodologies that you could use to arrive at that point, right? So within the industry, there's a typical process that you undergo from start to finish to get to that particular point. So this is like generic. So there's a point where you empathize with the user's needs. That's when you start with the whole UX design process, right? You try to empathize with the user's needs. But how do you even empathize with the user's needs?
So, Bolu, kindly wrap up on the UX user experience part of it before we touch on the user interface.
Oh, sure. So as I was saying, UX basically is trying to understand how people interact with products. Basically, how the kind of experience they have while using your product. Is it going to be bad? Is it good? That's what UX basically focuses on. And for you to arrive at that point, you have to be able to do certain things. You have to understand certain things. And I was saying that the design process typically follows a particular pathway. So you have to start by empathizing, right? You have to start by empathizing. But the question is, how exactly do you empathize with your users? You need to understand where they are coming from. How do you understand where they are now coming from? You need to listen to them. You basically need to talk to them. And that's how perform user research, right? Whether you are sending out surveys, or you are trying to call them up on Zoom or Google Meet to perform user interviews, you need to understand how their day-to-day lives work. How exactly do they solve their problems at the moment? And how exactly would your product now fit into helping them solve that particular problem? Because at the end of the day, we have particular things that we do in our regular lives, and we have problems in our regular lives. So for me to say I'm a UX designer, or for me to say I understand the whole idea of UX, I need to be able to extract information from you without you being biased and giving me biased answers. I need to be able to get some sort of information from you. And that's what you as a designer or a feature designer need to understand. You need to understand how to extract valuable information to help you make better informed design decisions along with while you're empathizing and you've gotten some information. You now have to define, you have to place some sort of definition on these users that you've interviewed or that you've gotten some information from. So you have to define them. Basically, whatever information you've gotten, you now have to collate it, and then you now have to structure it properly to now understand what exactly you really need to use moving forward and what you might need to drop. Or you need to basically find out where exactly there's some sort of bias. So that's what defining means. You're trying to make sense of all the information you've gotten from your users. Then once you made sense of everything, you now sort of have like an ambition to now enter the ideation phase, where you now start with wireframes, basically low fidelity designs. And when you now make your low fidelity designs, you can now test your designs with those users.
Okay.
Then once you test, you get some information that will sort of help you know if there's something already that's wrong within your design. If there's nothing wrong, you can move towards like getting high fidelity designs, and you prototype, you test, and all of that. So that's really how the UX process works. The major thing about UX is trying to extract information. That's the biggest thing about UX, trying to extract information that will help you make better informed design decisions.
Awesome. So a major user experience is extracting information from the user to make a better decision. And once again, it says that you can start with this bit of this skill sets. You can start with your mobile only device if you don't have a laptop. So now, why does the user interface require a laptop? And I tell them about it. Why does it look like the UI part requires laptop? And just give us a general overview of what user interface means.
So the user interface is everything that covers visual and interactive elements of like a product's interface, right? So if you pick up your phone and you open Facebook, you see a button. You basically see a button and you sort of know that this is a button because it looks like a button. That's an interface. Is what you can see and what you can interact with, what you can click, what you can swipe through. You get, so anything that your hand or your fingers can interact with, anything you can interact with on a digital product or in a digital product is what you call the user interface. And the reason why you will now need a laptop for the user interface is because the major tools that you would need to learn how to design interfaces, you would typically find them on systems. They need, like, the requirements are there. You need a laptop to be able to do these things. And sometimes, depending on the particular tool, sometimes you might, maybe once you've learned Figma and Adobe XD, and you now typically try to graduate towards something like motion design, you might now need a different grade of laptop, right? Because then they might now tell you, oh, if you don't have maybe 8 gig RAM or your laptop has to be 16 gig, you know, they basically system requirements that will help that particular tool function properly. But the thing now is when you use Figma and you try to design, let's say, a website, you cannot actually do that on your phone because it's going to be very, very difficult. Like, the interface is very limited for you to be able to use it properly to design these interfaces themselves. There's lack of real estate. So you actually need a bigger, you need a bigger interface to be able to design an interface, right? So for someone like me now, based off of the level that I've gotten to, I realized that I could not even like rely on just my system. I had to get a monitor, and I got an ultra wide monitor so that I'll be able to actually see what I'm doing to like that pixel perfect level, because that's where I've gotten to, right? If you are starting, you don't need to worry about that. All you need to worry about is getting just a system that can accommodate Figma or Adobe XD. If you can get the free version, if you can pay for the paid version, then that's fine too. But at the end of the day, once you get to a point where you know you want to learn UI, you definitely need a system. You cannot work without a system unless you want to just be sketching. I know that most tools that will allow you design interface on your phones are limited to just making sketches. And you cannot stop at making sketches. At some point, you need to be able to develop or design high fidelity interfaces, and then you need a system.
All right, thank you so much. So, in summary, user interface is the things we can see. The designer putting the position the things and in the digital product, the things we can see and interact with in that digital product. Very interesting. Yeah, so back to my initial joke and my war between UX, UI designers versus developers. Do you need to have any programming knowledge, coding? Do you need it in this journey?
You actually don't, but it's a plus, right? It's a plus. If you know how to develop, let's say you know a little bit of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, it is actually a plus. But I feel like it's a plus for startups. You would actually startups will appreciate you more if
They want to
you are
extract
like
more from you.
yeah, they'll be able to extract more for you. You would be like the joy of a startup. If you know how to design and you know how to develop, you would be the joy, you would be the pride and joy of a startup. Bigger companies, they don't really require you to do that because they can afford to put somebody else on the payroll and do all that. So you might not necessarily need to develop. I don't know how to develop. Even though I started trying to learn how to develop, but at some point, I just knew that it was not working for me.
Not for you. Yeah.
And I just, yeah.
Awesome. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just trying to look for ways to make legit money in it. So is there demand? Is there a demand for designers, UX, UI designers? Is there a demand?
Yeah.
You mentioned your journey. You said after your internship, you worked with a company. After your service, you had a 1 year, 6 month internship with another company in Nigeria locally. Then afterwards, you had a job. I think your first job with an it's a US-based company. So I believe you started earning in dollars. And of course, my circle is paying you in dollars right now because I was also being paid in dollars. And I can have a better idea how much your pay range is. And I know that they're paying you well. So, so is there a demand? So am I going to subject myself to 15 hours per day or maybe 2 hours per day for the next 6 months in 2023? And knowing that on the 7th month, of course, internship is very important. I keep going through internship and learning more on the job. Should I subject myself to these things come 2023? And I know that there's a job market waiting for me. So what's the job market like for in your industry?
The space is still open, although I would say it's getting saturated by the day, right? A lot of people are trooping into it. But I would still say like there's a lot of space. So I'll give an example, right? I think it's just different for us here on this side of the world, right? Because I remember when I first started, before I even got like this married circle job, when I was still like trying to like get something different, I did something. So on my LinkedIn was showing Lagos, Nigeria. I was like, let me even try something. Let me try switching my location and just changing it, right? And I changed my location to Newcastle, Delaware. Delaware is in US. The amount of recruiters that entered my DM to tell me that, oh, their company is looking for this, am I open to opportunities? Even though most of them require that I had to be a US citizen because of tax and all of that. But I realized that there's actually a lot of opportunities for UX designers basically outside. I mean, I feel like the opportunities are more outside than here on this side of the world, because for us, our industry is still basically like being developed and we're still going through like a lot of stages. Basically, we're not there yet, right? But definitely there's still a lot. I mean, if me living in Lagos, I can get to international opportunities already. There's definitely a lot of like opportunities out there. So yeah, I think definitely there's a lot of opportunities out there. So all you really, really need to do and make sure is that you make sure that you're better than the next person. That's the most important part. Yeah. You make sure that you're better than the next person, and you make sure that every single interview that you do, you make sure that you prepare like this is the last interview you do on it. That's awesome. Your approach. You have to be better than the next person.
Awesome. You know, for me, it's actually the reverse. And I get opportunities on LinkedIn based on my location being Accra. But recently, I got another job in Netherlands in the blockchain space, and we had to change our location. That was for the first time I realized that LinkedIn acts very funny. The moment you change your location in LinkedIn, the things you see kind of change. I started getting opportunities. They started sending job recommendation to me for the Netherlands. I'm like, oh, really? So this was really happening. I didn't even change my location actually. I just added Netherlands to my bio on the header in LinkedIn, and it changed because the one I was working for said we should all change it. So that's what we did because we are selling a product based on European standard. So LinkedIn optimization is very important. If you don't use LinkedIn, you're missing out a lot. I get a lot of opportunities. People reach out to me that they want to enter the Ghana market based on what I do. And they just reach out to me like, I'm just there, I'll see a message in my inbox. I'm like, okay, that's only the idea. So whatever you want, bring it. Yeah. So thank you so much. I think at this point, I'm going to stop asking the questions. I believe we've learned a lot already. And we're going to switch over to our attendees, our audience, those who are here. So we have a question already. So K, young K says that as a beginner, what do you do to extract info from learning UX? It sounds like you need to interact with an audience because I remember you did surveys and all that. So yeah, what's the design process once again?
So the thing about extracting information is you have to understand who you're extracting the information from, and you have to understand why you want to extract information. What exactly is your end goal? So typically, most of the time when I try to extract information from people, I've had to do one-on-one sessions. So basically, conduct user interviews. And the thing with user interviews is, like I said, you need to understand why and what exactly you're trying to arrive at. So before you organize your user interviews, you need to have like a documentation of your agenda. And then you need to, in that documentation, you need to have two things in particular. One, your assumptions. So without hearing your users speak, or the people you are trying to extract information from, without hearing them speak, obviously you have assumptions about how or what they need, right? Even though that's not what you're going to run with, but you have assumptions, so you put it down there. And then you now have goals, basically what you're trying to find out. With this user interview, we are trying to get so this and this information. This is what we are trying to extract. You need to, like I said, you need to understand what you are trying to extract. You need to know what you are trying to get, right? So I'll give an example. When at my first company, I was trying to work on a product for first-time orders, right? And I needed to understand how exactly they will interact with the product. So before conducting the user interviews, I understood that they wanted a product that where they could have a forum to interact with other mothers, other first-time mothers, and seasoned mothers, and doctors as well. They also wanted to be able to chat with doctors one-on-one. And then while conducting the user interviews, we now found out that we needed to add one particular feature, which, to be honest, would have been basically the USP, the unique selling point for that product. Prior to that, we didn't necessarily have a unique selling point, or we thought the unique selling point would be the fact that they could chat with doctors one-on-one. But then we found out that the unique selling point was the fact that they could input their child's information and then get some sort of like a tracking system to track their child's growth and development. Basically, they input some specific information from time to time about their children, maybe their growth. So every month, how tall is your child growing? You make those measurements, you record it within the system, and then you see graphs and all of that. All this nice stuff. And then there was this immunization tracker that we added to. So it will be sending notifications to the mothers that, oh, your child is within 4 to 6 months. He or she should have gotten this type of immunization by this point. So in case you did not know, or in case you forgot, you basically get that information, right? So that was actually the unique selling point of the product. But if we did not do that user interview, we would not have known to aim at that. So that's the importance of extracting information from users, because they are the ones you are building for. So you need to understand their pain points. What exactly is their issue? What exactly are they having issues with? What are their problems? It's when you understand the problems that they are having. Maybe somebody tells you that, I've been trying to find a way to do this, and this, but I've not been able to find a way to do this, and this. That exactly in itself is important information, right? So once you get that, you record, and then you now go back with your team and try to figure out how to find a solution for that particular problem that you collected from the user. So that's basically how you approach this user interview. You need to have your assumptions, then you need to have goals, then you need to understand why and what you are trying to arrive at. Because when you understand why and what you want to arrive at, you can now formulate questions that will now help you get to that point. Then you now extract your information, and then you can now apply it to your designs.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that wonderful response. I hope that answer is, hope you got your answer you're expecting. And young K. Matthew Godwin, you were asking about Figma. Can you please unmute? If you want to ask questions, you can lift up your hands or unmute and ask your questions, please. Matthew?
Yeah. It wasn't really a question. I was supporting what he said concerning the Figma mobile app. Yeah, I want to say that the app only shows the designs you made on your PC. Yeah, you cannot design on it. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Because I think I've worked with it a bit, and that's what I noticed.
Okay, thank you for that contribution. Young K still has a question. Kindly unmute yourself and speak, please.
Yeah, thank you, Sahara. I'm actually calling from Uganda.
Oh, great! We have a Uganda in the house.
Hey. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Bolu, for the answer about assumption. I was quite wondering about how to start at the beginner, but now I'll use my assumption to do the questionnaire and all that. So my second question is all about the UI, the end product. Is it a web application, or is a program on its own? Is it like a software that comes at the end, or what is it? Or is it a design?
The UI itself is a design. It's not a web app. It's not a program. That particular part is for the front-end devs and back-end devs like Sarah. That's actually their own work. It's not your work. Your own work is to design, unless you now decide that, oh, I want to take my skills up a notch to where I can do front-end development. And then you can now transform your designs into applications, basically. But what you are doing as a UI designer is purely design.
So I think, thanks so much. Young K, does that answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you.
So I think that question is, Emiola is asking something very similar. Is the UI/UX like building a website? So I think there's people are trying to figure out like, okay, like a web developer will build a website that we can all see. So I think it's not so clear yet what's a UX/UI designer, what's the end product, what are we looking at?
All right, so let me give some sort of explanation, right? If you are familiar with the building process of a house, before you build a house, you need an architect. Why exactly do you need an architect? You need an architect to lay blueprints, a plan, some sort of design that will guide you. If you are close to any architect, or you've maybe your parents, one of your parents is an architect, you know that before you can build a house, before you get your bricklayers to start laying blocks of cement and basically bricks or plastering and roofing and all of that, you need an architect to design how that house is going to look before people start even laying down foundations. So that's your job as a UI designer. Your job is what the architect does. Your job is to provide a blueprint to how the application is going to look and how it's going to feel. So you are not going to be the person doing the work of the bricklayers. You're not going to do the work of the carpenters. If you want to, you can learn how to be a carpenter or how to be a bricklayer. But just purely based off of your role as a designer, you are the architect. You are the one laying down the blueprints. You are the one laying out the design that other people are going to follow to now build the web application or the mobile application. You are not building the mobile application or the web application. That's the job for the bricklayers, the carpenters, and people that are doing plastering, who are the back-end developers and the front-end developers. You as a UI UX designer, you are the architect. You are the one laying down the blueprint for them to follow through design. So you're not really building anything. You are majorly going to be designing stuff for them to follow. You are basically like their lights. So let's say everywhere is dark. You're the person shining that light and letting them know, oh, there's a path here. Follow this path. And then they are just going to follow that path in trying to build out that web application or mobile application.
Awesome. So I hope that clarifies. Yeah, that I think that's very much clear now. You are the architect and you pass on the design for the developers, front end and back end guys to build the product. All right, okay, why not? Fire more. Unmute and speak, brother.
All right, thank you. So that means that just for clarity, so it means that the UI is basically focused on applications and web app. Is there a way that it can also feature websites or just basically applications? The designs is just basically for application.
What is the application? What do you mean by application? Sorry. What is the application? What do you mean by application?
I'm trying to get it.
Like web app softwares, like normal mobile apps, because he spoke about designs. We make the UIs for designing the actual like the features that will be featured in an app, maybe like a software. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I'm not right. Maybe it's just around for clarity. So if the design is for something, does it mean the design is only focused on softwares, or the scope can be widened to feature websites and so on?
Oh, so okay, yeah, I think I get what you're saying. So the thing is, with design, you're not just focused. So I think the great thing about design in general is that the whole point of building anything out, whether it's a digital product or it's even a physical product, because the truth is, the shoes you are wearing, they were designed by somebody, right? The chair you sit on was designed by, the chair I'm sitting on was designed by somebody. Like the blueprint on paper or digital, it was designed by somebody. Somebody used their brain to think about how exactly to look, and then they sketched it on paper first, and then maybe scanned it and then designed it on their system, and then showed the people that will actually build it out how it will look, and then those ones took it as a blueprint. So it's still the same thing with like designing softwares, websites. We are still taking the same process, right? Just basically trying to lay things down and sketch and trying to give these people an idea of what they are doing. So it covers web applications, it covers mobile applications, it also covers websites as well. So it's not limited. Then there's a point you even get to that you find out that you can actually design for stuff like augmented reality. You can design for mixed reality. You can design for virtual reality too. So it's basically just design and basically improving your skill set as a designer, to be honest. But yes, it covers websites, it covers web applications, it covers mobile applications too. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. Yeah, okay.
Yes,
awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. So our time is almost up. We have almost 7 minutes to go. 9 minutes, 7 minutes. Any other questions? Please? So, I mean, this last point you made is very interesting. Like, as a designer, you can virtually work anywhere. So the last part you mentioned about augmented reality, mixed reality. So I think the way I'm saying it right now is like anything that we can see as a digital product, anything that we can see on our laptop, on our phones, the user experience, the user journey, the visuals is a job of the UX UI person.
Yes.
So once it's an electronic device that we have to look into it, it has a screen. The thing we are looking at is a job of a UI, UX. Oh, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. As long
as it's on a digital screen and we as people can interact with it, somebody has to design it. Someone has to design how it will look. Somebody has to design how it will feel. Someone has to design and think about your process from start to finish, and then figure out a way for it to be seamless and easy for you. So that's the job of a UI UX designer.
Awesome. Fantastic. So guys, any more questions? If no further questions, we might be calling it a day. Thanks again so much for turning up. I really appreciate it. Any further questions? All right, I see that no more questions. Oh, okay. Dr. Melvin has a question. Kindly unmute yourself, please, and speak. Kindly unmute. We can't hear you. If you're talking, if you're talking, we can't hear you. Look for the microphone button and click on the microphone button. I believe the UX UI guy did a very good job for Zoom to show that there's a microphone button somewhere that you have to click on to speak. You know, I'm thinking like designers already.
I think you can probably type it out in the chat.
Okay, Dr. Mary, you can type it out if you are not like the marketplace in online. How do you get that? The question is not clear. How do you mean, please, Emiola? What do you mean by like the marketplace? I think Dr. Melvin is talking, but his network is.
I think it's better if Melvin types this question out.
I think his network is very bad. He was actually talking, so we couldn't hear him. So Emiola, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please? Like what you type is not so clear. Like the marketplace in online, how do you get that? How do you get yourself a job is online? How do we get platform? Okay, job, is there a marketplace, job marketplace for a designer, UX UI designer, where you can go look for jobs?
Yeah, there are places. I'm going to type out one or I've actually used to get.
Okay. Maybe also send it to me on LinkedIn so that we don't lose it. Okay, startup jobs. Okay.
Startup jobs. There are actually quite a few places. I think let me see if I can find.
Yeah, so you can help me with that, and you can pass it on to me on LinkedIn so that I can pass it on to the community later on.
I actually have up to 15 or so I'll just send them to you.
All right. So Kay, yes. So Kay, please speak. We're almost out of time. Dr. Melvin, please kindly type out your question, Dr. Melvin. Yeah, Kay, go on.
Thank you. I was wondering if Bolu can help us with. He said that he learned by himself how to do the UX UI. So if he can recommend us the video that we can start and.
Okay, I'm going to get all of that from him. I'm going to get all of that from him as well. And compile it. I'm going to do a shorter video actually. A short video of all the things we've spoken about here and also publish that. Ems, please. We have less than 4 minutes. Ems, please go on. Ems, please unmute yourself and speak or type your question.
Oh, I think it's typed it out.
Okay, I'm trying to build an app. So will I have to work with UX UI designer first? What next?
Okay, so typically what happens is once you work with the UI UX designer and then the person has basically laid out the blueprints, what you now do is you have to hand off to your developers. So typically in the software development cycle, when you're trying to build an app, you, aside from the UI UX designer, you typically need a backend person and a front-end person. So a front-end person like Sarah, our friend here, then you can now get a backend person too. Although there are some people that do full stack development. So it means they know how to do both front-end and backend. Once you are done with the UI UX design, you now hand off your designs to the front-end and backend people. Then they develop the product for you. But I feel like if you want to develop an app, it's really a different story because even you yourself, you need to do more research on understanding how apps works, especially with the development side and also product management and project management. So what stacks will be best for that particular app? It depends on what you're trying to achieve, basically. So once you are done with the design, you now hand off to your developers. You need to get developers.
Fantastic. Under 1 minute, I already have an app. So what's the use of a UX app? I already have an app built already. Do I still need a UX UX designer? I built the app without a UX UX designer, but I built the app. So do I still need a UX UI designer to look into my app? Under 1 minute, please. Do you have a good answer to that?
Well, thing is, if you've already built your app, right, you know whether you need a UI UX designer when you give people to use it and they tell you they don't like how the process is for them. When you find out that people are not typically using your app because they are not enjoying it, whether it's interface issues, they don't know what to press, or basically it just doesn't look really good, or they don't even see the points in using your app because it's not solving the problem for them. People build apps that don't solve problems for people. So people will now be like, what exactly is the point in using your app? So that's when you realize you actually need a designer, because a designer will help you figure out whether people even need your app in the first place, if there's even a point building the app from a business perspective. So that even brings me to the difference between a UI UX designer and a product designer, right? As a UI UX designer, you're trying to extract information to basically help you design that product. But if you're a product designer, you are going to be looking at it from more of a business angle. You are basically not just a UI UX designer, you are a UI UX designer involved in making business decisions. Do you get how exactly is building these products going to help our decision-making process? Is it going to even be good for the business? Does it even make sense for the business? Should we go try another angle? You get, so if you already have an app, you will need a UI UX designer when you find out that people are not using your app or they are not enjoying the experience.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Bolu, we appreciate your time so much. And we'll be expecting more information from you that we can pass on to the community. I hope everybody's question has been answered. And so it's all about optimization, Dr. Melvin. Optimize your platform. Yeah, I know his platform, but I know he needs optimization. So he should come and pay you consultation fees and get you to do that for him. So thank you, Bolu, once again. Thank you, everybody, for joining Fueled by MoonLight, episode 3. God bless you all and have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.